Hi, this is Phil Potempa. Welcome to another edition of Notoriety. Each week we bring you all those ticket opportunities, everything that is being talked about, water cooler buzz, and everything happening that will put you in a theater seat, or maybe be your next travel destination, or it could be a restaurant reservation. We're just so glad that you're here for a part of the table conversation. We want to make sure that you know that we are here from the generous underwriting and sponsorship that is the Indiana Arts Commission, and also our generous benefactors from People's Bank as well. We are also part of a broadcast that really is the equivalent of all the print columns that you'll read in editions of the Post Tribune, which is under the flagship, of course, of Chicago Tribune Media. All those stories and columns that I write that are captured there as well. We're just so glad that you are, again, a part of our broadcast, which is happening on Captured Live Thursday, April the 17th, 2025. So, in case it's a rebroadcast and you're hearing it, you'll know exactly when we had today's interview. And it's an interview, again, that it is the way you can spell success, especially when it comes to theater. And it's the staging, the direction that has come from Stephen Schellhardt as our guest that's joining us via Zoom. He is the man that has helmed and guided the way for a brand new production of Putnam 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee that's playing at the Copley Theater, just a stone's throw away, right along the expressway up at Aurora, Illinois, across the street from the other a little bit larger neighbor venue that is the Paramount Theater. Stephen, thank you for joining us today. There he is. Stephen, I think we've got the mute on. If you can give a hear. There he is. I see him smiling. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you for joining us for the broadcast. And we should say that we still have a little bit of a window here. So this was a run that started March the 12th, but we have it until April the 27th. So you still have got time to get your tickets, and I can tell you will not be disappointed. Have you ever directed any other incarnation of this, or has your path ever taken you through any other production that was linked to Spelling Bee in the past?
It hasn't. I This is my first time uh, with the show. I've seen the show many times in the past, 20 years, but I have never directed it. I love it so much. I am a huge fan of William Finn, the late and great William Finn, and I have been lucky enough to to experience some shows, be in them or direct them before, but never Spelling Bee.
And again, I cannot, and I don't often always do this. I cannot sing the praises enough for this musical. It is so endearing and heartwarming. If you've seen it in another incarnation, you can never see this enough and still not come away entertained, amused, a little tug at the heartstrings, and the songs. The songs just they stay with you. I remember the first time ever hearing about this. I think getting ready for work, and I had the Today Show on, and it was I think Matt Lauer and Katie Couric, and they had these lanyards around their their necks with numbers. They were in the middle of Times Square, and it was first being launched there, I think, off Broadway at one of the theaters, and they had them spelling out words with some of the cast members. And then we had a pretty good sized long run with Broadway in Chicago presenting it downtown. I remember at the Broadway Playhouse, might have been the old Drury Lane at the time, and they were first kind of converting it at Water Tower, and I loved it absolutely then. And then when I saw what you've done with it, you've got a few little twists and turns that I want to talk about. Well, first of all, let's sandwich in there. For anybody who wants to get tickets there, the best website to go to probably is it just they just go right to ParamountAurora.com.
ParamountAurora.com. And yeah, the show, we've been so blessed with our audiences. They're loving it. So it's selling really well, but we have 2 weeks left and there are tickets available. So yes, get your tickets now.
If you want to do the old fashioned telephone, 630-896-6666 and a 6. So four sixes after that. And that is I can't believe this is, I'm saying this, but I was mentioning this to our publicist friend Jay as well. I had not been to the Copley Theater yet.
Really?
I'd planned to go to so many different openings. I think their first big grand opening was with Company, which I loved, and I didn't make it to that. And so this was the perfect show for me to go to. It feels very intimate, but it also looks so opulent. I think our producer has a photo I snapped from the outside. It is a beautiful state of the art space.
It is glorious. And one of the things that really intrigued me by directing this musical in the Copley was the size of the space. I think I saw that production at the Broadway Playhouse. I grew up in Chicago. seeing theater, and I remember that production, and I loved it. It was very proscenium. It was very, it felt very big. And in the Copley, it's just, there's something about feeling like the show kind of wraps around you and you can connect to these humans a little bit more because you can see their expressions so closely and you kind of feel like you're a part of the spelling bee. It's an amazing space, and the fact that they have the Paramount across the street, with full orchestra and the ability to do something this size, and their $1 million quartet, Stolp Island Theater. It's just a really cool arts complex that we have here.
And so close. It was really. I kept thinking, gosh, is it another block down? It literally is right across the street. Go up
Yeah.
those beautiful steps, and you're right there in that glass enclosure lobby. And how many seats in the Copley Theater?
I think there is about 160. I think that is, but I could be mistaken. It's not too big. And it really does feel, it feels intimate, but then the score is musical theater spectacular, so
Yeah.
you have the musical numbers that feel very large and in your face, and then you have these sort of beautiful sweet moments between the relationships between the humans, the spellers, especially as they get to know each other and as they gain more confidence in themselves. That feels like the moments stick out a little bit more when you feel closer to them.
That voice you're hearing, maybe some of you are tuned into our traditional radio dial. Others are finding us through social media, or you're just streaming us right from the radio side here. That's the voice of Stephen Schellhardt. We know him as an acting face, but he is making his Paramount directorial debut, and it is with, actually, it's at the Copley Theater, so it's right there in that same complex as you mentioned. 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee is the musical that is, it hits a home run every single time. And I want to just kind of go, and I'll give a quick thumbnail description. It's a different show every night because there's a certain amount of audience participation that happens, but really it's a simple premise. You're being transported to what is the finals of a spelling bee competition. So you have various students that are selected, various schools. They're, of course, rather competitive because they're all after the same trophy, but you get glimpses and flashbacks into their journey that took them to that moment. You've got the same small intimate cast having to step into dual roles, which they do so on their mark. They really do. If they have to suddenly become parental, they seem parental, Stephen. If they are in their moment as somebody that is wiping their nose as a kid in a spelling bee looking nervous, they do that also, top notch. You've done a wonderful job with them. That cast, did you have in your mind some of the folks, because each of them is a bit of caricature because that's what it's set out to be. So was it just, okay, here's open auditions, it's whoever's going to be here, and then, or was there a couple that you thought, you know what, if so-and-so might be here, that's the kind of person I envision it to be for the assistant principal, or how did that all go
Sure.
down?
First I will say, yeah, this cast is spectacular. It's an ensemble show through and through, which feels very Chicago theater to me. It just feels right. Everyone gets a moment in this show. The cast, for me, is a group of humans, that I just love. And I think one of the biggest things that people don't really think about is the casting process to musicals. I think that is a huge step. And if you get the right ingredients in the room, in the pot, then what you serve will hopefully be very good. That's my philosophy. And I think my biggest challenge with this casting process, there's so many amazing actors in Chicago.
Yes.
There are so many incredibly talented folks that I do go in because you have to. I go in with a vision, and I think this is kind of where I want the characters to go, and these are the people I know that I would like to see for the role. But so much of the joy in this process comes from the surprise for me. The people I have never seen, the people that I have seen for years and surprise me with something new. And it feels like all of the actors in this company were supposed to play these roles, and they're each bringing humor to it and a lot of improv to it. But what they're also bringing is heart. And I think the biggest thing for me was making sure we capture the humor, but we also capture the humanity,
Yes.
of these spellers. Because I'm a dad. I'm a father of an almost 7-year-old who goes to school with middle schoolers, and when this show came out in 2005, it was a different time. and middle schoolers look and feel and act very different than they did in 2005. And I think that the cast we have really brings a contemporary feel to these characters in a way that is kind of new and refreshing to watch.
Absolutely. The voice you're hearing is director Stephen Schellhardt. We're talking about the Paramount, but really Company Theater, intimate, beautiful venue space. It's in Aurora. It's just a stone's throw right up the expressway and along I-88. You will not be disappointed within an hour you are there. And it's the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. It's a new production, so it's been reincarnated. You've got only 2 weeks to see it. It goes up until April the 27th. They have so much programming that is scheduled in those areas, it can't be extended. So this is the final time to get up there. You will not be disappointed. Tickets are so easy. You can go on and do your own homework, pick your seats at ParamountAurora.com or call 230-896-6666. And I want to make sure that we emphasize that this broadcast is happening on Thursday, and it is April the 17th, 2025. In case it's a rebroadcast or you're seeing it streamed later on, you'll know exactly where we're at with it. You mentioned of that again, 2005 versus 2025. Gosh, I can't believe it's that many years in between there. I've never seen actually the script, but I'm curious, does it give a little leadway here and there where it says, insert something here that makes a reference? When they had it at the Drury Lane, I think, downtown, I believe it was still Drury Lane before they had switched it over to Broadway Plaza, so it still had all those opulent mirrors and chandeliers. And I think the line in there was, gosh, I've never been to a gymnasium with chandeliers or something like that. In your case, it's a very clever line that they talk about that has to do with the one of the libations being served. I won't give it away, but does that something that you get to insert in there, or the cast came up with it? Where does that come from, Stephen?
Yeah, there is, the beauty of this show is I think it's so well structured. I think the music, it's obviously William Finn. It's perfect in my mind of a score, but you also have this wonderful script that allows. It is very scripted. There is a good structure for our actors, but there are sections that say this is improv and this should be a feeling of something that has to do with the theater that this is being performed in. So I think our cast, there's a variety of lines we sort of come up with in rehearsal that a bunch of stuff as we rehearse and collaborate together. And then the actors have a slew of choices to choose from depending on the show. And I think that's so beautiful. The fact that there are the thing that keeps the show so alive is that, like you said, there are 4 audience volunteers every single night that come from the audience. There's always sort of the live theater factor to it. You never know what you're going to get. And so there are many, many moments in this script when it allows us to honor, the improvs and also push the boundary on the current events. There is so much happening in the world.
Yes.
And while we want to tip our hats to what's happening in the world, we have fun with kind of pushing the boundary on some of these improvs with political events, current events, social, environmental things happening in the world. And so that has been the joy, seeing these actors run with the improv and respond to things in the moment by the person in front of them and people just laughing. I think the thing for me is that it's like we all need a little joy and escape.
Yeah.
And this musical really, for me, sitting back and watching people come to the theater for 2 hours and laugh and think about their own ways in which their childhood had shaped their adulthood, I think it's one of the most beautiful theatrical experiences I've been able to be a part of in a long time.
And my nod to you, to the company, to the licensing house, they have not changed some of those other core parts where maybe some people would say, oh, I don't know if we're allowed to talk about the giant Latin American rat or some of those things. Maybe we got to change this or that. All that is intact, just as I remember and recalled it, and they've left it and retained it to, again, for what it is, for what at the moment in time is. And again, it's such a joy to be with them on their journey and on their adventure. You're not quite sure who to root for because each of them have their own moments. Now I got to ask a couple of these, what I call, these are my tough Larry King, Joan Rivers kind of questions. I've always loved that song about I speak 5 languages or 6 languages?
6 languages.
6 languages, and that cast member just seamlessly needs to swap in and out and slip in and out of different languages. I, I'm guessing you probably don't know all those languages. How are you knowing, like, okay, you know what, that sounds clunky. You've got to get it. It should be this, or is there enough YouTube clips for them to practice? How did that all go about?
Well, we have a wonderful dialect coach and a language consultant, and that all those languages are in the script. Um, in all truth, we went through and I actually really wanted to make sure the language was authentic. That there were some times when I think William Finn is trying to compose, and it's like you have to scan the lines have to scan, the lyrics have to scan, and so some of those six languages didn't quite weren't as quite authentic as what you would just say if you were saying I can make jello in Russian. So we did look at those all, and Shelby Voss, who plays Marcy Park, is incredible. And Shelby comes to the table with all these skill sets, and we kind of wanted to highlight the skills that she has, and yeah, really dig into the authenticity of these languages. I mean, I think something that just this show really points out, especially with Marcy, who is a speller who is so good at everything and can excel at everything, but doesn't find any joy in it. Every single one of these spellers is dealing with the strive to be the best, while also the pressure that puts on our youth. And so you do see these spellers who, that Marcy can speak six languages and can do the splits and play all sorts of sports, but she has no joy. And watching her figure that out and realize that it might not be the end of the world not to win or not to be good at this one thing, because there are other things that she wants to explore. It's kind of a beautiful thing. And yeah, we dug into every single one of those songs to be as authentic as possible.
And again, beautiful. That is that word to describe the story. Again, the different musical numbers, each one of them is so different and unique, and it resonates. It takes you right back to that moment of what it was like, and I want to go back to visit a friend of mine who I know was our excellence in our little farm town, Ann Scamore, and she went, I think, to the next county, and when I took her to see one of these, I kept kind of chiding her and saying, I'm going to make sure you are the ones that get called up. And I'm going to be transparent here. I think because of a late restaurant reservation, I got there just as they were closing the doors. How do they go about selecting who's going to get called up? Was it a table out front in the lobby that had sign up for participation? How does that go down?
Yeah, if you want to participate, which I encourage you to do, there's a table in the lobby right in front of the doors. And if you come 15 minutes early to get your tickets and want to sign up, you can sign up. There's a questionnaire, asks you a couple questions about yourself, any theatrical experience you may have, because, in truth, we really want all of our spellers to feel a little different, an eclectic group of volunteers each night. So we take the stack of volunteers who have filled out forms, and actually Veronica Garza, who plays Rona Lisa Peretti,
Love Veronica,
who's brilliant. She gets to look at those maybe 5 minutes before places and kind of go through and see, are there any things from those questionnaires that that Veronica and Jason, who play the announcers, can improv with? Can we have an eclectic group of age range? Can we have some fun facts that
yes,
volunteers have to write? So we really try to get a range of volunteers so that the improvs can be more fun, and that the audience can have a ride with a 12-year-old speller versus a 50-year-old speller, and it can just be a really fun evening.
And there could be a reward in the form of a juice box or a fruit roll up or something if you,
This is true.
yeah, if you're able to get a muster up and stay on the duration. There are some nods that I know either they've just let you add, even in the promo photos. I see a selfie stick in 2005. I don't know if we were doing Kardashian selfies back then, so they have let you kind of have a little bit of fun. And I think, matter of fact, the whole cell phone thing, they collected them at the beginning. I don't know if that was originally a part of the back, because I don't know if we had all these smartphones.
No, something that I came to the table with my wonderful designers was wanting to place, the show is, like you said, it's a fictional spelling bee in a sort of geographically ambiguous location. I wanted to update this show to feel like it was in 2025, because I think, because I'm a father, because I see the pressures with social media, the pressures with our country's obsession with being number one, the pressures that are, parents put on their kids to try to be successful in this world that really asks us all to step it up. I think I wanted it to feel like they were watching a middle school spelling bee now, and that, for me, is the presence of
Yeah.
self. My daughter goes to school with people who have to put their cell phones in a little sort
Mm-hmm.
of carrying thing, and the idea of promoting yourself on social media, and that a lot of our youth um, rely and get their information from their phones. And so I wanted it to feel fresh. We did that with some of the props. We did that with the costumes. There are a lot of iconic costumes in this show that we wanted to pay homage to, but not replicate, because it's
Yes.
a new production. So we really wanted to see, how do middle schoolers dress today? What is the vibe of a middle school group now versus 20 years ago? And it is different. And I think our designers have really subtly put in this feel that it does feel like we are watching a spelling bee that takes place maybe last week, as opposed to making this feel like a period piece, which
Yeah.
I think it could be. And I don't think it has to be, because the pressures we all put on ourselves to strive to be number one, it doesn't change over the years. That is universal. But just the world and the circumstances that we are living in have changed. And so we really wanted to make sure we honor that world.
And I saw something, and again, I probably have seen at least maybe 5 or 6, maybe 7 incarnations of this over the last couple decades here.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I'd not ever seen before is, and I'll leave it at this, Mr. Barfay, and he had a certain amount of clothing attire that I had not seen. That really was a highlight. That was fun and a surprise. And I'll leave it at that. What you're hearing in the joy in our voice is because we're chatting with actor and turned director Stephen Schellhardt. He's made his Paramount directorial debut. That's Aurora, just a stone's throw around the expressway here. And he's right across the street at the Copley Theater. It's this great space. It's beautiful, opulent, state of the art. It's intimate, about 125 seats. A perfect setting for the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, which has been around just about that long now, since it first launched. We're kind of hitting that mark, and it's only there for another 2 weeks. So here's your chance, if you're hearing all this and thinking, and it is, I should also add to this, I would say it's, people will write to me in my column, or they'll call and they'll say, but what age is it appropriate for? It's hard to kind of gauge, because I don't know everybody's children and what they have had for their own experiences. But this, I always think is family friendly in my mind. What do you think about it, Steve? What would you say?
Yeah, just like you said, I think that's a great way to put it. I think every parent should, every kid is different, and I think you should do your research on the shows that you see with your families. And this is definitely a show that I think anyone 9 and up would enjoy and understand, and get a kick out of. Anyone that is, going to be a preteen soon and understands the pressures that they're
Mm-hmm.
facing.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
it's quick, and it's 2 hours in and out. And it is a wonderful, I think, thing to do with a group of friends or family. It's like laughing together is something that's such a joy with this show. And like I said, every show is different. So I know several people have said, I saw it on opening and then I wanted to see it again because there's so much to watch, and how much has it grown? Or I didn't know this joke was not used every night. So it's really wonderful, and I do encourage you to do your research always with theater. But
Yeah.
this is a show that is right for family. I would say 9 and up.
It really is. ParamountAurora.com, easy way to go on is pick your tickets, pick your seats, have it ready to go. You can still call the old-fashioned way, 630-896-6666. Be another way. Another question as we're starting to kind of wrap up here. I remember, and again, I usually have got a pretty good brain for these things. This might be a line that is fluid and they let you change, or maybe you just thought, I'm going to change it because I think I can put something funnier in there. But there is a scene in there where one of the contestants has got two fathers, and she's really trying to tell in the second act the one father that he should be fair about things, and and she says, I don't have a magic foot because that's one of the tools the other person has that's so creative. And in the other versions I'd always seen, he would say, and you also don't have a mother. But that line is not in it this time. Is that a scripted line, or was that added, do you think, by other theaters here and there? Or
Um, that's a great question. That is a scripted line that I took out. I There was something about when this show came out, and some of the jokes that felt like we were putting a hat on a hat.
yeah,
As a same-sex couple who has an adopted daughter, I would never say that
yeah,
to my daughter. And I think there's some ways in which I went through this, some more moments in the show where I thought, is this a joke at the expense of Logain, the character, or is this a
yeah,
joke that feels maybe not as appropriate in the world today? And I just thought, you know what? There was also something with that relationship with the fathers and Logain. She has two dads. They are helicopter parents. They are very wanting Logain to be perfect. And in the original script, in reading it, there was sort of a negative quality
yeah,
between the parents and Logain. And I just thought, I think parents have the hardest job,
yep,
and I know that I want my daughter to have a wonderful life where she feels strong and she can set herself up for success. But there is nothing that she could do that wouldn't make me love her. So I wanted to really put the heart spin on that, and I cut that line just because I thought it felt a little negative, and wanted to throw support at the young speller in this version
yeah. It
as a
didn't really add to anything too much to that quick interchange. And
yeah,
isn't it
it
funny
was
the things
funny
that
and
you
funny.
catch?
Yeah, it's a funny joke, and people would laugh,
Right?
and I'm sure that it would
Yeah,
get a laugh. But it's is it the right way to be
yeah.
laughing? And that's always what I ask when I read scripts is like, how has the world changed since this has come out, and how will it be received, and is it necessary?
And you've done your job when it was so compelling that watching it as it got closer to the finale, I'm thinking, I don't remember who wins this. So and I've seen it over and over, but I was so engaged with each of the characters and how they were all intertwining and what was going to happen. So again, a standing ovation and applause to you. And
Thank you so
this will
much.
be the first of so many things that'll be coming. So I know we're going to get to cross paths again. So thank you so
I
much
can't
for
wait.
spending
Thank
some
you so
time.
much.
And it's
Yes, a
what a
pleasure.
pleasure. Absolutely. And also thank you, all of us who are here gathered together. Could it be viewers or it might be listeners? Thank you for joining our edition of Notoriety for the last 8 years, bringing you everything you want to mark on the calendar. What's the latest in water cooler talk that we're chit-chatting about, be it theater or be it lifestyle news or wherever your path might take you. We thank you and we wish you the best of the best for the rest of your week.